Welcome to the lab, where our topic today is the scientific process of changing your mind. Now, I can see your brains churning already. Really, Dave? More change? Now, I get it, but this change? Well, just stick with me. I'll be attempting to simplify extremely complicated biological facts on the scientific process of changing your mind. But before I do, a massive disclaimer. When I was in high school, let's just say I didn't do so well in the sciences at all. Like terrible, which is directly related to why I have a degree in theology. So to all you real scientists, doctors, biologists, and botanists watching, I will do my best not to embarrass you or myself. Okay, the scientific process of changing your mind, part 1, learning. This is a neuron, and your brain has 100 billion of them. That's billion with a B. If you took 100 billion sheets of paper and stacked them side by side, it would be 5,000 miles wide. That's the distance between Los Angeles and London. So all of those neurons are surrounding your brain like an intricate 3D digital roadway system, and it's never unplugged. These neurons, or nerve cells, have a unique ability to store information and communicate with each other. You see, every time you learn something new, like you read a book on how to cook French cuisine, or studying your learner's manual for your BC driver's license, or why cats believe they rule your life, as you learn, you are building fresh new neurological pathways in your brain. Your brain literally upgrades its hardware to reflect new connections that have just been formed. The principles of neuroscience would say it this way: nerve cells that fire together, wire together. So when you begin to learn new information, you are physically changing the roadways in your brain. So if learning is making new roadways, then remembering is maintaining them, which leads nicely to the science of changing your mind, part 2, remembering. Think of it like a relationship. The more you communicate, share thoughts, your feelings, the more the bond between those neurons is strengthened. Or it's like a pathway. What started out as a single trail hike now becomes a wider footpath. And as the traffic increases over time, it eventually becomes a super highway. The more a thought, an action, an emotion, or a skill is reinforced, the stronger and wider a neurological pathway becomes. Now, if you are smarter than me in science, which is pretty much everyone, you're already starting to put together what's going on here. Creating neurological superhighways is incredible when it comes to the positive things in life, like falling in love, learning how to paint, or mastering the art of controlling your narcissistic cat. Unfortunately, the very same positive process is equally as powerful when it comes to negative feelings, actions, and destructive behaviors. And reinforced enough, they turn it into a Formula One race of uncontrolled addictions, which is why part 3 is so important: rewiring your brain. Now picture this. You've been watching Trinity Online faithfully, and through the music, the messages, the stories, God has made you aware that a change is needed. Your compassion bucket is pretty empty, and so you decide to intentionally grow compassion in your life. But remember, for more years than you can count, a lack of compassion has fired and wired this digital superhighway in your brain. So as you attempt to merge this new thought about compassion, the old neurological pathways start firing. Don't be compassionate. You hate your mother-in-law because of how she treated you 10 years ago. You can start this compassion thing tomorrow. Disregard anyone who thinks differently than you. It's all about you anyways. See, this microscopic tension forms in your brain and you can't even see it. But when you begin to tell yourself a new story and put new input in, over time, through resilience, persistence, intention, you begin to replace the old narrative with a new, louder voice in your head. And it's at that precise moment that you have the opportunity to change your mind forever. Here's the sciencey part about it. When a thought travels from one neuron to another, there's a glue that connects them called a neurogrowth factor. However, there's only so much neurogrowth factor to go around. So it's forced to steal the glue from a neighboring circuit or the memories that aren't as strong. And when that happens, well, you can't keep both. So the new desired neurons take over the old ones. And when that happens, there goes the memory of the hurt, the pain, there goes the impatience, the intolerance, and now the only signal traveling to that neuron is called compassion. That, my friends, is the science of changing your mind. Now, research has shown this process of rewiring your brain happens when you consistently provide different thought pattern for a minimum of 21 days. It's why recovery programs are never less than 3 weeks. And that's why it's called the Whole30 eating plan. Now, science has just figured out how all of this works in the last few decades. But the Bible has been saying why the rewiring is so important for 2,000 years. Romans 12:2 says this: "Don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect."